Hello, everybody. This is Siona from Honouring ME Crochet, and today I am here for our Hook and Learn session to explain rather than demonstrate Tapestry Crochet. So this has come about because I put a poll in my Help and Ideas group asking what it was that people in there wanted to have in a Hook and Learn session, and this was the second. Last week we showed some simple methods for joining granny squares because that was the top request. The next one was for tapestry crochet, and the other one I've got, which I'll do next week, is interpreting and changing gauge. Sorry, just change that light. So the reason I'm going to explain rather than show is because the technique itself I don't think is that difficult. The stitches, this is my first and only ever tapestry crochet, and I designed it totally from scratch myself. And that's showing it backwards. So I think it is something that you could, if you can do single crochet, if you do UK terms, then you'll be wanting double crochet. Then I think you should be able to manage it. The only other thing you'd want to learn before you start is to crochet in the yarn as you go. That's something I've developed as a habit, mostly because don't like sewing in ends. So wherever I can, I crochet them in. So I don't know if you can see, but through this part of it is that you carry the colors through. So what I thought I'd do is I'd explain the process for how I got to this design and what I did, and then some things that you need to consider. So to start, you need some graph paper. Now this is a cool little book. I'm pretty sure it says My Crochet Project Bible. Unfortunately, it's not showing the image the right way around, but that's okay. So this has grids on the page. And what you need to consider is that every single grid here represents a stitch. So when you're making your design, if you draw, what I did to start with was I drew a picture and then I colored it in, keeping to the squares and not to my picture, so that I could see where the stitches would go. And then as I made it, I numbered them so I could see how many of each color I had. So if you're going to start your first one, I'd probably recommend going with something that's more square than round, just for simplicity's sake. So maybe start with some checkers to practice. That's if you're designing your own picture. There's plenty of patterns and ideas on the internet as well if you want to get your own, but this is, I mean, I made a washcloth for this. I haven't used it yet, haven't blocked it either, but it does make for a unique gift if you've got a kid's drawing that you want to turn into a face cloth, or you want to make something with their initials on it, then this is a good way to go. Okay, so if you've got your graph paper, draw your picture on it. I used coloured pencils to colour it in, and then you're essentially working in rows. Well, the way I did it was I worked in rows. So when you've got your picture, remember to count from opposite sides. So what I did was I counted every second one as a row and then every second one, so that I remembered which way I was actually working when I went backwards and forwards. And then what you'll do is you can work the color in. So you can see in the background here, the purple, I carried it through to the row. So it will use a bit more yarn doing it that way. You can drop your stitches, like drop the yarn and pick them up like you would in corner to corner crochet. Doing that though, because you are coming back, you may need more, depending on what colors you've got, you may need to have more than one ball per color. It would probably end up a bit neater, but I just found it easier to carry it through. The other thing, it doesn't matter if you start or finish the stitch by changing the color, but whatever you do, keep it consistent so that it stays the same. As you can see, there is a slight difference between the back and the front, but you can still see the overall picture. And of course, being round, it's a little bit uneven, so the OCD in me prefers something square. You could just make it a bigger piece so that the curves are less obvious, but otherwise it's okay. So one other thing to consider as well is you want the stitches to be tight so that you don't see too much of the colour. So what I did for this one was I used Knit Picks Dishy, which is one of my go-tos. Now that calls for a 5 to 6 millimeter hook, which I normally use a 5 or a 5.5, but for this I used a 4 millimeter hook so that it kept the stitches much tighter and closer together. You can see here where I've carried the 2 colours through as well. It's more for the see, if I dropped the colour, then the issue I would have had is that I needed it on the other row, I needed it over this side. And so if I was going to drop the colour, I would have had 2 balls of purple. The 1 ball of yellow would have been fine. But to get rid of that complication, it's just easier to carry the colour through. So I don't think it's as tricky as it may appear. Start with something a bit simpler. Practice, like I said, with checkers, gingham, something you might want to try, letters, anything that's more square than round, or a bigger piece, and just practice on a coaster or a face cloth. But if you can do single crochet, if you can carry your yarn through, you can draw pictures on a graph and you can count, then you should be able to design your own, which I think is the attraction as well for tapestry, is that you're not limited so much with what you can do as far as pictures and colors and designs. So yeah, sorry that I haven't demonstrated it, but I did figure it would make more sense to explain for this one. But yeah, that's essentially it. If you've got more questions or you want more clarity, then ask away in the Help and Ideas group. If you haven't signed up already, this week coming, 2 weeks time, I intend on opening the doors for my Hooked on Crochet club, which is coming soon, which is designed to help improve crochet skills. So if you're new to crochet, especially if you're new to crochet, it's the perfect opportunity for you to learn, develop the basic stitches, learn some special stitches, get some more practice in with rounds and rows and texture. There's a yarn giveaway every month, so I'll put in the comments a link where you can go and put your name down to register your interest. When the doors open, they'll only be open for a short time, no more than a week, and then they'll be closed for 3 months. I'm only opening them once every quarter, so I want to be able to give my best attention to the members or the clubhouse people when they're in there. So I'm extremely excited for that project. But until then, and next week, I will come and show or explain, see which is better, adjusting gauge to fit the garments and whatever it is you're making. So enjoy your weekend, everybody, and I'll speak to you next week.